Welcome to For the Record, which is a conversation series where we talk to music heads about their stories and the music that makes them. I'm here with Black Dave today and really excited to chat with you. It's great to have you here, Dave. Great to be connecting again.
Yeah, I'm always pumped to talk to you, so this is good. This is good.
Cool. Um, yeah, no, likewise. I know I've asked you to do this before. I'm going to ask you again. I always like to start with these by going back to the beginning and just hearing more about your roots, where you're from, and like when your relationship with music started, and then work our way forward from there.
Yeah, I'm from South Carolina, Charleston, the only place you should go in South Carolina if you're gonna go. Um, which it's funny because a lot of people go to there's this place called Myrtle Beach, which is definitely like the tourist
Yeah.
spot. I feel like there was like a TV show, like a Jersey Shore vibe, but of Myrtle Beach. I don't remember what it's called, but it's okay. Charleston has a show on Bravo or something. Um, so I'm from Charleston, South Carolina. It's like a for I lived there before it became like a city, just to give you an idea of like how populated it was when I was coming up. It was like still
Nice.
kind of out, and then it became a city as I got older. So now it's a city, but when I was coming up, it was
Mhm.
a town, and which is kind of weird to think about. Um,
What is the threshold between town and city? Like, what made it become a city? Like, how did you graduate?
there's it's a few 100,000 people, I think, have to live in a
Hmm.
place. I'm gonna look up
Okay.
the official number sometime during this process and tell you what
Okay.
the real number is. But um,
Okay. Cool.
there's a population threshold that has to be passed in order for it to be
Makes
considered
sense.
a city. Um,
Got it. Okay.
and so they did a lot of building as I was coming up. Um, I Let's just skip a bunch of years. I really started getting into music. I think there's like a it's like a period where you listen to the music that is around you, and then there comes a time where you start to be able to choose your own music, or
Mm.
um, or there's music that exists that you think is really cool, and you're like, okay, this is it. And so, one of my like earliest vibes with that was in middle school. Um, I rode the bus, and there's one kid who had like an older brother who rapped, and he would listen to Wu Tang. He was like a huge Wu Tang fan, and
Mm.
so I just got super into it because I thought it was like the coolest shit ever. And so I got into that pretty early, and then really I think just continued to like listen to the radio and stuff with my mom. She was really into R&B. And then eighth grade, ninth grade, I got really into like new metal and stuff. So I was like pretty much like a Hot
Mhm.
Topic kid. Um,
Cool.
and so I was really into like Slipknot and like Linkin Park and stuff like that. Just to give you an idea of like the time. It was like early 2000s, late 90s. So like
Mhm.
all that Corn, Limp Bizkit, like they were having their time. Like you would almost think it's funny now, but those first couple of Eminem albums were like kind of for new metal kids, like um they weren't
Yeah, true.
they weren't really for like the Eminem that we know now. Those first two albums, the Marshall Mathers and Slim Shady like LPs, were definitely for kids who liked rock music. And
Yeah.
then like he could rap really well. And I feel like 8 Mile came out and we were like, oh no, he's a rapper, like um and so I got into that. Then in middle school or in high school, I started playing bass in 10th grade. So I was like 15. Um, I started doing vocals around the same time in bands, um, like maybe like my senior year. And so I played in a few bands. I started going to hardcore shows. And that really, I think, is like the base of like my music form, is like
Mm.
going to hardcore shows, playing in bands, um, and just doing that. And so um, did that for a long time, maybe like a decade or so, maybe like 15, yeah, like a decade. Um, and then I shifted, and I was shifting all throughout it, but into like producing, like making beats and recording music myself, and I got into DJing in 2013, but it was much more on the rap music side. I in senior year of high school, I got really into streetwear, started reading Hypebeast heavily. I was skateboarding. Um, and so that started to like inform a lot of what I had going on. And and I think now, um, there's like obviously like a 15-year gap, but like I think all of those things have combined to be able to like make my taste what it is. And I know this isn't so much about me making music, but about the music I make being what it is too. I think, especially for creative people, and I don't know how it is for non-creative people. And I know everyone says like everyone is an artist, which is something I kind of hate, but I get. Um, like a lot of artists, especially ones I look up to, are always talking about how to impress some younger version of themselves. And so like for
Mm.
me, like the age of like 17 to like 22, 23, like that dude is the dude that I'm like trying to live the rest of my life for. You know what I'm saying?
I
And
love that.
and so like a lot of that taste where I was like getting a lot deeper into rap. I was already into hardcore. And so like those are like the bases of my music taste and creation.
Cool. Cool. I love that. Thanks for sharing. Um, what do you think of of like the new metal renaissance that's been happening the past couple years? I asked because it's kind of pulled me back into that. Well, I was at Mark's place who's recording this and we were
Mm.
listening uh to some Slipknot. He like put on Duality and watched the music video for that. And I was like, damn, this this song's amazing.
Yeah. And
Like,
Slipknot is like, first of all, they just split with their drummer like last week.
uh,
Um,
yeah, I saw that.
but that whole band, all of them are flexing on their instruments. Like they're all so talented, like in a way that like you can't really tell when it's all together. But if you kind of
Mm-hmm.
like break Slipknot into like individuals, you're like, oh, all of y'all are going crazy right now. Um, and so that's been really interesting. But I'm into it. I think what's happening is the internet, is really like breaking genres, but also breaking like time. And so I love referencing Krayshawn. I'm a huge Krayshawn fan. And like her song Gucci Gucci went viral like in the pandemic. And a couple weeks ago it went platinum randomly. It came out in like
Mm,
2012 or 13 or something. And
mm,
her story is like crazy because the song popped. She was a Tumblr kid, so this was like Tumblr era. Rappers weren't getting like crazy record deals like they were that we knew in the 90s, where like a rapper would sign a deal for like millions of dollars and like would go crazy with all this money they have. So I would say from like Soldier Boy, like '05 ish, like up to like 2011, 2012, that wasn't happening as much. Um,
mm.
ASAP Rocky and Krayshawn both got signed. Krayshawn got $1 million out of every deal. ASAP Rocky got 2 million out of his deal. And she had that song Gucci Gucci, which you know made the phrase basic bitch popular, which the phrase Gucci, Louis, Fendi, Prada is like based on, and um it's so crazy like the influence that song had, like even though people kind of downplay Krayshawn and like her impact or whatever. Um
Mm.
and and she got signed. She like the mixtape came out or whatever, and then she dropped an album. They were trying to make her like a pop star. She sold 3,800 copies because they only released her CD in Hot Topics. Then she got
Oh, wow.
pregnant. The label dropped her, and
Huh.
and then so like the song goes platinum, and she's like, "Hey y'all, I still owe my label $800,000 even though my song has gone platinum." She like pulled out the receipts, like put screenshots online. Um, I don't remember what the question was. The resurgence of new metal. But like I think that time and genre are just broken because we can
Mhm,
discover things at any time, and it's like this the
mhm,
marketing thing that like marketers, but especially music marketers, talk about, where it's like any song is new the first time you hear it. And so I think that's kind of what's happening. But I think also on top of that, like a lot of especially like I'm really bad at generations, but like um a lot of people born like in the mid 90s especially, I think, are like figuring out the internet, and they're like, okay, cool, like I can do these things now. And
Mhm.
I'm born in the 80s, late 80s, but I feel like people a little bit older than I am are really figuring it out, a little bit younger than I am are really figuring it out. And so they're able to like play the music that they really like and make it connect in a way that makes sense. And then with all the rappers wanting to be rock stars, it continues that like pipeline. So for me, I think the internet's just breaking so many like boundaries that previously existed, that were like, if you listen to this band, like uh it's almost like someone wearing a Slayer tee or something and being
Mm.
like, you know, name five Slayer songs. Like, we don't do that anymore. That's not a thing anymore. It's the internet
Yeah.
now. We don't name five Slayer songs anymore. But before that, I think naming five Slayer songs and having on a Slayer shirt made a lot of sense. Um,
Mhm.
yeah. Okay, I'll stop. I'll stop there.
Yeah, no, no, it's amazing. I love that. It's interesting. I mean, the blurring of boundaries, is definitely real. I'm curious what that means for, diving more into that last example you gave of like it no longer makes as much sense or feels as fair to challenge someone, who's wearing a Slayer shirt to name five Slayer songs. What does that mean for like the definition of a fan? Because like that's why people would challenge it, is like, because of the people like who really liked Slayer, had pride in knowing
Yeah.
everything about Slayer. And like, what is it like? Has there been like a fractionalization of just like more tiers of artist fandom at this point,
I think
so
it's
that we accept more casual fans to exist? Or like, what does that mean exactly, do you think?
I'm I'm really into the idea that bands, artists, etc., aren't so much the music they make, but are a vehicle of the culture they're about. And
Mm,
like, obviously knowing a lot of songs and stuff proves how deep into the culture you are. But I think that because culture can be so broad, um, like of a term, and especially even me not like going into specific cultures, there's an opportunity for things that the culture represents that the music might not represent to permeate. So
mm,
if you think about this
mhm,
idea of like vintage period, right, existing, then it's like, okay, vintage is a culture, which means any old band by default is a part of that culture, regardless of their
mm,
genre. If I'm wearing a The Who shirt, they're just an old band. I don't need to know a song. Like, I have on a Joy Division tee or a Smiths t-shirt, or
mhm,
a Kiss shirt. Like, you can pick any genre, right? And if you're wearing that, it's actually a representation of like a fashion culture, and just because of their existence, they are a vehicle of that culture. And then
yeah,
uh, I think on the other side, obviously there is the fan culture, but I think there are spaces for both. It's weird for you to walk up to me on the street and be like, name five Slipknot songs. But if you walked up to me at a Slipknot concert and asked me to name five
there
Slipknot
you go.
songs, it's a totally different thing. And so I think context is really gonna matter. And like,
Yeah.
looking at someone on the street, and I think even taking that, there's so many other possible signifiers of being a fan of a thing, down to the way your pants might fit if you are wearing
Mhm,
the Smiths shirt, the way that you might
yeah,
have on some sort of spiked necklace if you have on a Slipknot shirt, the way you like,
mhm,
the way you have on skate shoes, with a Green Day t-shirt or something. It's like, oh, you like listen to Green Day. You're not just like a dude in a Green Day shirt, like. And
yeah,
I think looking at uh, not the music itself, but looking at the acts themselves as vehicles of culture, and removing the music a little bit, can really start to explain how those things can come to exist in a way that probably still pisses people off, like pisses off purists, but can make sense of it.
Totally, I think that's incredibly important. Yeah, I mean, I think that's a really good distinction, and that context. Yeah, I guess by reading into that context, you can kind of place, like what that reference is, like
Hmm.
if that person is wearing a T-shirt as more of a vehicle of culture or a vehicle of their fandom of of the artist themselves. Yeah, I've been thinking about this also, and not related to music, but like walking around like here in London, like going to vintage shops here, in the UK, and it's it's cool to buy like old sweatshirts and t-shirts from like obscure American colleges and stuff, and like have those names on it, and I see these things like this is the least cool thing I can possibly imagine. But then, of course, the context matters, and in the US we wouldn't have that. Same thing happened when I recently went to Japan. It's the same thing. I was really looking forward to like going to vintage shops, buying like some old cool vintage Japanese clothes, but they all had the same thing. It was like these like obscure American colleges and like weird things from the US,
Hmm.
which are less cool, for me being from the US. So it sort of speaks to that same kind of importance of context of where you are, really
Hmm.
matters when you're adjusting something.
Totally. That's a super good point. It's so funny because like I think the same thing about traveling. Like I'm like, oh, I'm gonna go to London and get some London shit. I'm gonna go to Japan and get some Japan shit. And they're like, we don't actually want our shit. Like we're just gonna
Yeah.
send our shit to you. So buy it all in America. Like
Yeah.
that's so funny. That's crazy.
Yeah. Um, okay, so I'm curious how music, like the act of music discovery, has changed for you, because you talked about um sort of the coming of age moment for you musically, where you were diving super deep into rap and diving super deep into hardcore, back in this sort of optimal version of yourself that you want to please and cater to for the rest of your life, like the 18 to 22-year-old version of you. How are you discovering music then? Like, what did that process look like, and what does it look like today?
Back then, I think the radio really influenced new metal in a way that was like really important at that time. Um, you could you could hear a Linkin Park song on the radio. You could hear a Limp Bizkit song on the radio. You could hear a Slipknot song on the radio, on like the rock stations. People were really into like Nirvana and shit. I don't like Nirvana, but I get it. And I I feel like that was like the early way, right? Like I was talking earlier about how like you finally start to be able to make decisions on your own, and then you can start finding music. Um, I think a lot of my early vibes with that were like forums. We had a so in Charleston, we had a pretty decent hardcore scene back in like the 2000s, maybe up to like 2013 ish. Um,
Mhm.
and we had a blog, like we had like not a blog, a forum, and essentially like it was like the locals forum, and we just talk about hardcore, talk about bands, post flyers for shows that were coming up, like post photos from shows, et cetera, et cetera. And then there was this website at the time called HXCMP3. There's MySpace. Like there was all these like sort of movements that were happening online, and those were the ways that I was discovering a lot of music. I remember like I was on Clubhouse doing something, and the streetwear brand Johnny Cupcakes. It's okay
Heard of
if
it.
you
I don't
don't,
know.
but so the dude who runs it, his name's Johnny Cupcakes. He
Mm,
used to play in this hardcore band called On Broken Wings. It's my shit.
mm.
It was my shit. I saw them like in the mid 2000s, and I was like, yo, I was like, I know like you don't give a fuck, but like On Broken Wings is my shit. Like he was cool about it. And so like you would find out about bands through that. I got a little bit older, um, and then you really entered like the true blog era. So like the version of me that exists that I'm interested in creating for, um, is based in the blog era. I think in 2011, I was in my like mid 20s, and so um, early 20s, whatever. But like that person in that time, so like going on blogs, going on Hypebeast, going on a little bit later, going on SoundCloud, especially for like rap discovery, live mixtapes, like just tons of websites that were blogs or forums. I'm super into forums even now. I really want to like bring back the forum. I think forums are such an interesting way of communicating. In a way that's like that gives you space to like be a little bit more thoughtful than like a live chat, or like a Twitter space or like all the things we have right now. I just think,
Mhm.
um, and I know this isn't quite the thing, but like I think now there's such a democratization in being a creative that we're just moving so fast, and so it's really hard to like find things to latch on and really dig in. 'Cause it's like if I can open a forum and then I can type like Childish Gambino, for instance, into a search bar and then read everything that anyone said about it, and then I can go to like a different website and do the same thing. Then I can go on Hypebeast and see like the music videos and like maybe they talk about community or maybe whatever. And so like I think for me that's kind of been the vibes is like just using the internet really traditionally. Um, I
Mhm.
think a lot of the ways that it's changed now is um, is you're finding it through things associated with other things that are kind of delivered to you. I'm still trying really hard to like have my own opinions and like discover things, but like my friends, all my friends are like a decade younger than me. And I'm like, how the fuck do y'all find this? And it's like some random kid on YouTube or like some girl with a TikTok, or whatever, right? And
Mhm.
it's like, oh, Annabelle interviewed her. Oh, like they performed Rolling Loud, so I looked them up. Like that kind of vibe. It's like um, we didn't focus so much on that. I think in my time, I should say, like I was really just like scouring the internet, like looking up videos of old hardcore bands and being like, "Yo, have you seen this?" And they're like, "Oh, it's on their self-titled. Like, I got it right here. Go ahead and download it, like on whatever HXCMP3 or whatever." Like
Mhm.
that. That's so different than now. Like if if let's use Annabelle again. She's a real person, by the way, and like she Annabelle, her last name's Klein. Annabelle Klein. I was trying to think of her name as I was going through, but she goes by Annabelle Klein. She just interviews artists. That's what she does, and she
Cool.
just recently like started throwing shows and stuff. But she's like one of the most pop in like rap music influencers right now. Um, but it's like even if Annabelle introduces me to something, I still have so much more work to do. Um, but I also have no work to do because I just go on Spotify, right? And I can link up to the music and and I can just listen to it and maybe I'll find something about them on their Instagram or something. But Instagram's so weird. Not weird. Instagram's interesting because it's curated, right? Like back in the
Mhm.
day you caught everybody in person. You're like, "Oh yeah, I know him. He's like this." But on Instagram, I can be like anything. This is a
Right.
long rant. I'm done.
Keep going, keep going, I love it. Yeah, I mean, it speaks to that just, yeah, I mean, I always find that, like, talking about the internet, like, comparing it back to, like, the mid-aughts, late aughts, early 2010s to, today is it's, like, already weird, and it's only been, like, 10, 11 years. Like,
Yeah.
it's already difficult to reference back to that era, uh, with any clarity and, like, understand where we are today. Um And just like how can we, it feels like back then we had like more control and like context was more readily available. Maybe it wasn't as convenient, but like the curation element was there a bit more. I don't know. I mean, the question is like, how do we marry, the convenience of something like Spotify while also still injecting, um, the contextual experience that's so important, to kind of,
I feel like
add edges, round out. our perspective of what's happening, the person, the creator, the artist.
It's tricky because like we as artists, like there's so many artists who are like, yo, I just want to make art. Like I feel like before the internet really was like is what it is now, like before the social internet, I'll say. Um,
Mm.
like you just did it. You just made it. You played shows. People saw you. They told people about it. You might have got posted on Kanye Twitter. Like like you had your little Tumblr. Like you were just doing your thing,
Mhm.
right? And and that was cool. And people would kind of report on you. Like the world would report on you. Communities would report on you. Like your scene would report on you. They'd be like, "Yo, I saw Wale. He's got on the phone posits." That like
Right, yeah.
like Wale wouldn't have to put on foams, go on hype beast, post his
Yeah,
foams, like show us
yeah.
like this is a Supreme t-shirt. Like you don't have to do that, back then. This is a
Mhm.
Supreme t-shirt, by the way. But
Oh.
like you didn't have to do that back then. Now like everything
Mhm.
has this like possibility of manufacture, but what comes with that is more work for the artists who just want to
Totally.
make stuff. And
Yeah.
so it's almost like content delivery might have to slow down a little bit, but no one's going to slow down because it's
Right.
democratized. Because now, like, I do this to my friends all the time. I'm like, yo, what are you doing? They're like, oh, I'm doing whatever stupid thing they do, and I'm like, somebody else is working right now, and they're gonna pass you. And you're just gonna sit there and fucking play your little video game. Mind you, I like play video games, and it's like, bro, like I'm just trying to chill right now. I'm just doing my thing. I'm like, that's cool. This 10-year-old's gonna be out rapping you next month, and so like it's like you feel this urgency to like constantly like pump
Yeah.
your presence out to people in a way that you think is gonna look like what people want, as opposed
Mhm.
to like if someone like saw me skateboarding, it was like, oh yeah, Dave can skate. He's got good heel flips. Like I would have to like set up my camera, call a homie, like film me doing a heel flip. Like, okay, cool. Like, let me post this on the gram. All right, let me post this on TikTok. All right, cool. Like, I'm gonna tweet, yo, my heel flips are better than everybody's heel flips. Like, you really weren't like the you're you're going against everyone on the internet now, as
Yeah.
opposed to like just existing in spaces and that scene or that community being the only thing that mattered. And then if people resonated with it, then it would be like, oh yeah, I fuck with Dave. Like I actually do like his heel flips. Have you seen him do a cab? Like he does his sick backside cabs. These are like my real tricks. And I have a lot of tricks. I had a couple tricks. Um, and
Nice.
so yeah, it's I think it's something like that. Just another like symptom of the internet. Comes with its goods and its bads.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's like, it reminds me of that whatever meme or I don't know, axiom. I don't know who said it first, but if it didn't happen on Instagram, did it
Yeah.
or if you didn't share it on Instagram, did it even happen at all?
Hmm.
And just like thinking about the pressure that puts on people just, to share every single part of their lives. And just think back like what did people used to do before, Instagram? It's already hard to remember. um
Yeah. You.
but just like
We.
placing like the onus to discovery on the artist. It's like just to do, or the creator, the skateboarder, whatever. It's like you have to do every possible thing that you can to try and elevate yourself, because that everybody has access to Instagram, and somebody else out there who who's skateboarding or doing whatever is going to do all of those things and going to expose their skills to the world.
Hmm.
And because it's all within the context of like a zero sum game, you just like have to compete all the time. It's super exhausting.
You know. I was talking to a few skate guys on Clubhouse. One of my favorite photographers who got me into photography, like is like a skate photographer, and they were talking about how kids these days would rather get posted on the Thrasher Instagram than have a Thrasher cover.
Wow.
And like how interesting that is because like the Thrasher cover is like the peak, right? Like it's almost like I feel like if we like equate this to music, right? There are a lot of magazines that still exist, um, and it's like getting a cover of a magazine might not be as cool as getting on the Instagram of that magazine, or
Mm.
getting on, the TikTok of that magazine. I hear that a lot. Just like magazines that do exist, it's like without TikTok, they might not be running the way they are. They might not be able to sustain because something they did on TikTok or are doing on TikTok goes viral, and it's like homes for communities have been encased in this like one mega app, right? As
Mhm.
opposed to like us having a bunch of micro apps that we would go
Right.
to, which are just websites, forums, blah, blah, blah. Like a lot of people, the way that I've been naming specific websites, we don't do anymore. We don't do that anymore. We don't go like, all right, cool, I'm going on the Hypebeast forums. All right, I'm gonna hop on High Snob. All right, I'm gonna hop on Fader. All right, I'm gonna hop on like whatever. We go, I'm gonna hop on Instagram and see what's going on. You're like, damn, it's
Mhm.
the whole thing? The whole thing? Like just
Yeah.
you know? And and I think like that sort of thought is gonna be really interesting where if and this looking at this might be a little bit nerdy, but it's fine. Thinking about the whole like federated social apps thing that's been
Mhm.
happening,
Mhm.
that's almost a revival of that, right? Like if you
Totally.
can have like a federation of micro apps that are focused on specific cultures, that you can still bounce and take your username to all these places, that's a W. I mean, obviously,
Mhm.
like, um, I think there's like, my Web3 existence is like similar vibes, right? Like I can just take my username and like bounce around and do all these different things, all these different places. But I think
Mhm.
that it's gonna really come down to like a proper federation or a proper like decentralized like vibe where everyone is trying to make their own thing for their own scenes. Because like we don't get Brockhampton in this era, right? We only got Brockhampton because of a forum. They started on a forum, and then they all decided to live together.
Mm.
Uh, 10 dudes on Instagram could get together, but how do they find each other? 15
Yeah.
dudes? How many people in Brockhampton? 13? Whatever the number is. Um, it's like that thing doesn't exist without these sort of slower um, things and these more um, I I don't know why I feel a way about this word, but right now, but like more niche spaces, more small spaces, micro spaces. Um, I
Yeah.
don't know why I hate the word niche right now, but in this moment, I didn't want to say it.
Yeah. I don't know. Niche is like,
It's like a
it's
buzzword,
it's
right?
yeah, it's become a buzzword. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, like it. I mean, I totally agree. Like in order to have like the kind of intimacy that you need to go start your own thing with people that you met online, you need like more customization, like more ability to cater to like whatever. Like you can't just like go to Instagram. It's like which scene, which
Yeah.
what are you trying to do
How?
on
Who
Instagram?
who do I find? Yeah,
Yeah,
like
and there's like the when you started hearing people like say like I'm gonna go listen to Spotify or I'm gonna go watch Netflix, where the platform has actually like replaced like the actual content that you're going to listen to.
yeah,
Where it's like I don't even care about what I'm going to consume. I'm going to consume this thing that the platform is going to give to me within its rules, like within the system that it's created, and and
mhm,
and and that is like what's dictating our consumption these days rather than even our own interests. Like it's hard to tell the difference. Like what are we actually interested in versus like what is all around us all the time. So we're just consuming it just
yeah.
because.
You like I talk about this kind of a bit, and I think like with the like real like the TV movement, like TV replacing movies movement, I think that really helped streaming. So like if you think about like
Mm,
Weeds and like Breaking Bad and like The Walking Dead and like
mm,
shows from that time period, like Dexter, et cetera, like you really got to a point where you were really digging in on channels that you loved, right? AMC had Breaking Bad, AMC had The Walking Dead, FX had Dexter, FX had like a bunch of things. HBO had da da da. Like, you know, like you would Showtime had this, like or you were just like a Cartoon Network guy, like, oh, I was really into Adult
Right.
Swim or Comedy Central or whatever. And even
Mhm.
like thinking about like channels that were like of the same thing, right? Like a VH1 watcher versus an MTV watcher were both music channels versus a BET watcher, all music channels, but for a different type of music consumer, right? Like
Right.
MTV moved away from music far before VH1 did. BET moved away from music before both of them because it was actually a black culture channel,
Mm.
more than just a music channel. It's called Black Entertainment Television. And so it's
Mhm.
like, looking at like how channels, that's such a good example. Channels are like the like websites back then, right? And then we just sort of
Right.
fall into this thing. And it's like what I actually really like about streaming HBO, for instance, is like they categorize in a way that's like, okay, do you want to watch a DC thing? Do you want to watch a Adult Swim
Yeah,
thing? Do
true.
you want to watch a like HBO thing? Like I really like that
Everybody. Yeah.
because I think that that content delivery, like through um like micro taste, like a smaller taste set, where it's like, all right, cool. So you're saying you like superheroes, dope. Click DC. Okay, you like, you know, the way that HBO has delivered content over the years. Click that. Like, and so I it definitely, because Netflix doesn't do that. I still have it in Safari, but I had bookmarks of all of my favorite genres because every genre had numbers on Netflix.
Mm.
And so I was really into kung fu movies. I was really into anime, of course. I was really into just specific things. And so I would have those bookmarked and I would just go straight to those categories. I wouldn't even go on Netflix.com. I would just use Netflix. And there was a site called Netflix Watcher. And it would tell you what came out on Netflix every single day. And so I'd go on Netflix Watcher, I'd see what came out that day, and then I would go straight to my categories, and just be
Mm.
like, all right, cool. What do we have in Southeast Asian martial arts movies? What do we have in Chinese martial arts movies? What do we like? And that's how I like browsed like a centralized, I guess, like media platform, like a one big world vibe. Was I was just like, I'm going straight to the things that I like, because
Yeah.
we can't do that
Right.
anymore. It's impossible now.
Yeah. It sucks.
Yes.
Um, on that note, I think that's a good segue to transition into, kind of the Q&A portion of this conversation where we really talk about the things that you like. Um, and I've already asked you like how you discover music. So I'm curious now, who are three artists of note that you've heard for the first time in the past year-ish?
I'm absolutely obsessed with this rap duo called Paris, Texas. Um, it's like these two kids from California, of course, and they just make like this fusion of like rock music and rap music.
Mm.
Um, it's I make a fusion of rap music and rock music, and
Mhm.
so for me, I'm just constantly trying to find find like I feel like this is my time, right? Like I'm like, oh, this is my time. I'm gonna figure all this shit out, and I'm gonna get into it like that. This is a weird answer, so please excuse it and excuse me. But and this might be like slightly more than a year, but uh, I hated Tyler the Creator for a long
Mm.
time until this most recent release. So I
Mm.
guess Call Me If You Get Lost might have been like, you know, maybe a year and a half, 2 years ago. But I thought Odd Future was stupid. I thought I don't like jackass style content. I don't like shock stuff. I hate fun
Mhm.
in general. And
Mm.
Odd Future, um, I had this crew of my friends. It's actually the same crew of friends that I'm with now. But we had a crew called Blood Tiger Crew. This will destroy you, which was like a joke on how dumb I thought Odd Future was because they're Odd Future Wolfgang Kill Them All. And so like that
Mm.
was like my whole thing was like Blood Tiger Crew. And it's called The Worst Generation now. It's like but it's like the same kids. It's like still me and my friends. And and I know that's like a weird answer. Um and then what would be another one that it's weird because I can only think like you can only really think about the things that you're like absolutely obsessed with, as opposed to
Yeah.
like things that you've kind of just like casually discovered.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
there's a band called Covet that I
Come
Covet, Covet. And
mhm.
what happened, I discovered the band. So their guitarist, I can't think of her name right now. She does solo music, but it's kind of like popping on Instagram, and it's like a math rock instrumental vibe.
Cool.
And so one thing about especially like Asian math rock is like it's kind of got like that twangy tone that you like really know in math rock, and like you can listen to a lot of stuff, and it's like, oh wow, like this is how y'all play like rock music in Japan. And I actually discovered them probably like late last year, and I managed to see them. I went to go speak at this music festival, and kind of someone couldn't go, and they were like, "Yo, you want to go?" And I was like, "Yeah." And I saw them. I got to see like Built to Spill. I got to
Oh,
see
nice.
Godspeed You Black Emperor. I got to see Dinosaur Jr.
Cool.
I got to see like a lot of
Nice.
like really cool bands, and Covet was like one of the bands that I like just happened to like. I was like, oh shit, like, and so that was really cool. They like came out with an album like the day after that show. So like
Nice.
on my flight back, I got to like like play the new album. Like it was really cool. They played a few of the songs, so that was sick. So yeah, Paris,
Cool.
Texas. I know Tyler's probably a cheat answer, and if I come up with another one,
No,
I
no,
will.
that
But
counts.
yeah,
That counts. I think that's an interesting answer. Uh, what was the music festival where you saw all the
it's called
bands?
Treefort. It's in Idaho.
Oh, yeah. I've heard of
Um,
Tree Fort.
yeah, super super random, but yeah, Idaho's it's really pretty. Like I could definitely like vacation there. But there's
Mhm.
definitely like three black people there, maybe less than three. Um, and so like I on the panel I was on, like I was talking to the girl who was moderating. She's like a local, and she was like, "Yeah, like we know like every single black person who lives. Like none of them are like hidden. Like it's like two or three families. I think she might have had like two black people in her graduating class type stuff. And so,
Yeah.
not that I'm looking for a bunch of black people everywhere I go, but black people existing is definitely a positive sign.
Yeah. Agreed, agreed. Um, okay, cool. Who's your most underappreciated artist from your favorite m music decade?
um, I think for me, it's like the 2010s, probably.
Uh-huh.
Um, that's the Dave that I'm impressing. Um,
Right.
I think in that time period, an artist who won't get seen in the way that I think he deserves to is Wale, the rapper. Um,
Mhm.
he's just as good as everyone else. He is low key just as influential culturally. I think like in rap music, cultural influence is part of your value. Like I would love to say that I'm a guy who like listens to music for the music, but I don't. And like cultural impact is like a very important measure for me. And I think
Mm,
he's influenced fashion in a lot of ways. I think he's influenced rap music in a lot of ways. Like the way that we perceive a lot of different music. And maybe he'll have a moment in the future, but I think he's going to be one of those rappers who should be a lot higher on people's lists than he is. And I think that he's just going to go super underappreciated because that era was just dominated by Drake. And if you weren't like on the Drake train or like the like Metro Boomin train or
mm,
Future, like stuff like that, you might get missed. And I think too, like this is like this is post trap music. This is like blog era rap. So this is like skate rap. This is like more emotional rap, like thinking about like Kid Cudi and stuff like that. And I think Wale
mhm.
really fit in. And I also think it
Totally.
was like a series of like unlucky label vibes. Like maybe he shouldn't have been on Maybach Music or whatever. He's supposed to have that Lady Gaga song that never came out.
Mm,
Like that whole thing. It was just like you saw the setup and you could hear him rap. He had Seinfeld on his mixtape covers. Like he had like custom Seinfeld shit going on. Like it was like, yo, this is the dude, this is the dude. And then I don't know what happened. A lot of people have a lot of possible reasons why, but I just feel like he's one of those artists who, while appreciated by many, um, will not see the levels that I believe he should.
Yeah, that's a good answer. I remember Wale. He played at my spring concert at my college's spring concert one year while I was there. It was pretty early Wale. It was probably like 2009 or
Yeah, that was
something.
the beginning. That
2003.
was like the beginning of the blog era.
And it was great. I really enjoyed it. Um, and then yeah, I mean, I'm glad that you mentioned his name because really haven't given that much and yeah of my thought to Wale since then, and I guess that's the reason why he's been underappreciated.
Yeah, there was um there was this like music collective that was gonna happen around that time where like all the young kids from the blog era were pretty much in it. It was called All City Chess Club. And it was like run by like Pharrell, maybe Lupe Fiasco or something. And it was like Blue and like J. Cole and like Wale and like Diggy Simmons, like all these people like from that time were like this super crew, Asher Roth, like just all these people, and they were like gonna put out these projects. It never happened. But it's like I'll find an image. I'll drop it in one of these chats. But like,
Please do.
there's such like an interesting time period where um, the blog era, I think, just had such a deep impact, and I think there was just so many of them that it's easy to get overlooked, especially looking at like the ones who have passed, like Mac Miller, who was wildly influential. But I think Mac Miller's influence was in how he influenced the other artists far before it was how he had an audience.
Hmm.
I don't think he really had that solid audience until his last couple of projects, like maybe like last three. Um, and but the artists he was working with were all having crazy careers. He there's all these stories about how he taught Vince Staples how to rap. Schoolboy Q was coming over, Kendrick was coming over. Like
Hmm.
every rapper in that time period was like hanging out with Mac Miller.
Hmm.
He was like driving to
Hmm.
the hood to pick you up. Like no one has a bad Mac Miller story, but just thinking about that, it's just super interesting. How there were just so many super impactful people in that time, and it's like if you have to make like a top 10, somebody has to get left off. So
Yeah,
Wale, I think, wrongfully gets left off a lot.
it's true. It's true. Well, he's having his moment right now in this conversation. He's
Yes,
re-emerging back into the zeitgeist.
yes, I love
um,
that.
cool. Okay, and here's a question I've definitely asked you before, and this is the big question of the show. But you're going to a desert island and you get to bring 3 records with you. What are they?
Uh, Full collapse by Thursday, still for sure.
Mhm.
Because of the internet,
Mhm.
for sure. And then I think the third is like that. Third is always like I feel like the oh, it could be blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Something I'd be super pumped about, and I think I said this before in at least one of the answers. Wu Tang Forever, the double disc, but I'll just
Yeah.
take the first disc. Um, but that Wu Tang Forever album might be it. If not that, I was thinking about the first Explosion of the Sky album.
Oh, nice.
Um, what's it called? How Something Innocence. But yeah, that album. I'm a big post rock nerd, so like I'd love to have one of
Same.
those if I'm stuck on an island. Like I think I'd rather have music than words, um, but just like
Yeah.
I know that the 3 albums I named I can play front to back. Um I recently played on the Wu Tang tip. I recently played the album The W. It came out in 2000. It had the song Gravel Pit that like was like their big single on that, and I love that album too. And they have a Protect Your Neck on that, and I know all the words to that one, and I don't know all the words to like the original Protect Your Neck. Like if you played it, I'd be like, oh yeah, I know some of these words, but like
Mhm.
the Protect Your Neck on the W, every word. I know every single word. It's crazy.
Hmm. Hmm. Alright, so which one are you choosing as your 3rd?
The Wu Tang album, Wu Tang Forever.
Wu-Tang album.
Yeah,
Okay, cool. Yeah, I think there's I think you did I think there's one other one. I think there's a like another hardcore album at one point that you had also said was a contender.
Gosh,
Maybe.
I don't know. I was hoping you would know
I
all
knew
my answers.
yeah, no, that's yeah, I'm not trying, to add
You mu
unnecessary confusion or, complexity to this. Cool, Dave. This has been amazing as always. Thank you so much for being here. For people who are listening, who want to get involved with your work, listen to your music, follow what you're doing, just try to dive into your brain for a little bit because, we we love the way you think. What's the best place for for people to do that?
um, I say blackdave.xyz in your browser or in your Instagram. Um, and I'm Black Dave on Twitter. Um, I think staying broad with those kinds of things is probably the best answer. So head to blackdave.xyz in your browser and you'll be able to find me on anything. My music's there, my NFTs are there, all the shit is there. So start there and then, you know, hit me up.
Cool. Sounds good. And last little question for you. Now that you've been on the show, who else comes to mind who might be a good guest to have on For the Record?
Um, it'd be interesting. I don't know if you had him yet. Um, Jared, he's in the Black Dave token chat, but he's like a big rap nerd too. Um, he would be
Never met
really.
Jared.
I'll have to. I'll tag him. I'll tag him, and I'll tag you together. And
Cool.
I think because he's not an artist. He's just a guy who's super into music, and music has really impacted his life. And so we talk about music a lot. And um, yeah, I think that would be a fun convo. Because like
Cool.
Discovery, but yeah, I'm done talking about it.
Okay.
Jared T.
Jared it is. I'm looking
Yeah.
forward to the connection and to the conversation. Cool, Dave. Thank you again, so much. Really appreciate your thoughts, your time, your energy. And yeah, it's great to chat always.
Yes. Until next time.
Until next time, indeed. All right. Take care.